The last round of the SINQUEFIELD Cup, and what a dramatic round it turned out to be. Fabiano Caruana was leading going into that final round, and he was the first in the clubhouse with a fairly quick draw against Wesley So. Fabiano Caruana finished with 5.5 out of 9. That meant there was a chasing pack, and next to join Caruana at the top was Levon Aronian with a beautiful victory over Gorishuk. Do check out that game in a video I made. You can find the video link up there. While all this was going on, Magnus Carlsen was grinding away against Hikaru Nakamura. For a long time, Carlsen didn't seem to be getting very far, but little by little he caused problems. It was a classic Carlsonian performance. After 74 moves, they reached this position, a rook and pawn endgame, where Carlsen had this extra pawn. But still difficult to make progress here. Let's see what happened. First of all, Carlsen improved the position of his king. In fact, this king goes on a long journey. Of course, it's fruitless to advance that extra pawn for the moment because Black's king can just blockade. But it's this king that has to travel up the board. And this white can achieve. Here it goes. But for the moment, you can see that Nakamura's rook creates a barrier, preventing White's king from passing over. Ultimately, White's king needs to be over on the king side, but the moment it can't get there. But watch what happens. Carlsen comes up with an absolutely brilliant idea. First of all, he puts his king all the way up to b8. Now, why on earth is he doing that? We'll see in a second. So now the next stage of the operation. Rook b6 attacks the pawn here. Black has to defend that, and now rook b7 check. Now this is a very unpleasant move for Black. Where does the king go? If it goes up the board, this didn't happen, but if it goes up the board, then rook f7 attacks this pawn. That has to be defended. And now we can see the king plays a vital role in the game, attacking the rook, and basically the white king moves over and will attack that f pawn. And once that pawn falls, it is game over. So after the check here, Nakamura had to put the king back. Now rook c7. Now this just forms a barrier and will let White's king go further. So that's why the king had to go all the way up to the 8th rank. A check. Of course, exchanging rooks would be completely hopeless. White king would just travel over and eventually conquer this pawn. But that's what happens anyway. So the king moves over. Rook b3. Now this looks like Nakamura has serious counterplay here. That pawn can't be defended. However, it doesn't matter. White's king comes over. Can't block out that king. If king f7, then we just give a check and the king comes over anyway. So coming back to this position, after king d7, Nakamura decides to take the pawn. And now king e6. So this is a big achievement. Carlsen's king has managed to travel over to the king side. But it's still not quite there. So for the moment, Nakamura is holding firm, protecting that pawn and potentially taking another pawn. But now it's the time for the h-pawn, the rook's pawn, to advance. King here and rook b7. This position is Zugzwang. That means however Black moves, it worsens his position. He must compromise here. So for example, if rook takes pawn, That allows white's king in. And then king g6, and it'll be checkmate on the back rank. Or if rook takes this pawn, then again the king comes over. Now in this case we take the pawn, and well, white is going to take a second pawn, and with those connected passed pawns that'll be game over. And again, if rook takes, then king g6 followed by mate next move. So after rook b7, Nakamura waited with his king. He played king g8. But now this check is very nasty. That's what Carlsen was waiting for. And now his king gets into this crucial g6 square. It makes a difference with the rook on g7 because black is unable to block with the king on h7. That's what Carlsen was waiting for. This is what happened in the game. King g6, so the king has got there. If rook takes pawn, then rook a7, followed by a checkmate on the back rank. So Nakamura had to play rook a4. And now rook h7 check. And here Nakamura resigned. The position is hopeless. Let's suppose king g8, only move. Now rook e7. So the threat is checkmate. If the rook comes back to defend, then we take this pawn. Black can only wait here, so we take second pawn, and with two connected passed pawns, the king will move to the side, and then pawn advances. The position is utterly hopeless. And of course, white's rook is in the perfect position. We can also take this pawn as well, so there's no counterplay. Or after rook e7, there's king f8, but then we can give a check, and the rook's pawn goes through. Absolutely beautiful endgame performance by Magnus Carlsen, and he showed such persistence, this trademark persistence of his. For many moves it seemed like he was getting nowhere, but he said after the game, I felt I just had to keep the game going. Only a win mattered. He has such staying power. He also said, it's great. Speaking about the win, it's great. It makes the difference between a mediocre tournament and a good one. So 3 players shared first place in the SINQUEFIELD Cup. Fabiano Caruana, Levon Aronian, and as we've seen, Magnus Carlsen. And there was to be no playoff. They shared the title. Well, there were many draws in this tournament, but ultimately we had a fantastic last round, and somehow very fitting that Caruana and Carlsen should share first place. We're set up for a fantastic world title fight in November, and of course very pleasing for Levon Aronian to be up at the top as well. He's such an exciting player, very original player, and yeah, good to see him back in form as well. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see some more, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's free to subscribe, and click on the bell if you want instant notifications of new videos. And if you'd like to support our work, then do check out patreon.com/PowerPlayChess and see all the extra stuff you can get there if you make a contribution. Thanks very much for watching.